Hey guys, what's up? Alex here. Today we are here to talk about the Malaysian Grand Prix. Now, I watched it a little bit later. I didn't get up straight away to watch it just because I was quite tired. But yeah, I got up a little bit later to watch this Malaysian Grand Prix, and wow, what a race it was. And I'm trying to not spoil things as I go through this race, so if you don't want any spoilers throughout this video, then click away right now. But anyway, Hamilton qualified on pole position just over Sebastian Vettel, who got, I think, Ferrari's first front row in years, so that was good for him. And then Rosberg lined up third place on the grid, which was, I suppose, alright for him, but I guess he had hoped for more considering where Hamilton was at, and it was pretty much matching Hamilton throughout the whole weekend so far, so it was not too great from Rosberg to qualify third place behind Vettel. But if we go ahead to the race, we'll see on the first lap, it was pretty crazy, not gonna lie. As we headed down to turn 1, Hamilton got a good start and still led into turn 1, but Vettel didn't get such a great start off second place on the grid, and Rosberg got a bit of a better start than him. But as we went down to the first turn, Rosberg and Vettel was so close, but Vettel managed to just fend off Rosberg from taking that second place. So Vettel with a good enough start to stay in second place, which was good for him. And I can't believe this race just went really crazy straight away, as Ericsson tried a really late braking manoeuvre. I can't remember who it was on, but he tried to brake really late, and then he sort of ended up just spinning into the gravel. It was actually really unlucky, because if he had like literally braked 1 meter earlier or 2 meters earlier, he probably could have stayed out of the gravel, but literally braked too late. He spun around after locking, I think, the rears up, and he ended up in the gravel, and that caused the first safety car of the race, well, the only safety car of the race, I should say, because that meant that the car was spun into the gravel, and they had to bring out one of those lorry things, which they obviously realised from Japan 2014 they need to put a safety car out because there really could be big risk in that. So that was good from the FIA to do that, to bring out the safety car. It really defined a really interesting race here, because we had different strategies right from the off. We had both the Mercedes stopping, and Vettel interestingly decided to stay out on this early safety car here, and that actually put the Mercedes back, I think, in about 6th and 9th places, I think, after the pit stops, because we did have people that didn't stop. I can remember, I think it was Sainz, Grosjean, I think it was Hulkenberg as well in there. Quite a few cars did decide to stay out. I think about 40% of the cars decided to stay out, but we had the majority coming into the pits to change over the tyres. Most went over to the harder compound tyre, which is, or the prime compound tyre I should say, which is the harder of the hardest compound of. You can literally have the orange sidewall tyres. But I think one of the interesting things as well was Maldonado getting hit on the first lap, and then Raikkonen also having a puncture as well. So Maldonado got a puncture, and so did Raikkonen in the first couple of laps of the race, meaning they both dropped to the back of the field. And I forgot to actually mention this, but Will Stevens didn't start the race, so that was unfortunate for him. That meant that there were only 19 starters to this race. Mary did start, which was good for him. Good to see Mana Marussia still out there, as I've been told to call the Mana Marussia, as it isn't just Marussia anymore. I was getting a bit confused whether it's just Mana, just Marussia, whatever. We don't need to talk about that. But anyway, Vettel then led the race for quite a long time. He built up about a 9-second gap over the cars behind him after Hamilton had made his way through the cars in front of him. I think there were about 4 or 5 cars in front of him after the pit stop. So he made his way through them, and so did Rosberg, but just took a bit more time, Rosberg. I think Rosberg was about 9 seconds back from Hamilton, and Hamilton was about 9 seconds back from Vettel, so there were about 18 seconds separating the top 3. But that's where the race, made some interesting decisions, because lots of stuff was going down through the midfield and everything, but Vettel at that point decided to go quite long on his first set of tyres, and decided to go, I think it was about 18 laps on his first set of the softer compound tyres, which was the medium. He decided to go about to lap 18 and then decided to pit, obviously then leaving the lead of the race to Hamilton, which meant Hamilton took back the lead of the race, and Rosberg, I think, was in second place at the time. And then Vettel had incredible pace. He switched over to another set of the medium compound tyres, which are faster, of course, than the hard compound tyres. He decided to switch over to them, and he was incredibly fast. He was catching Hamilton about 2 seconds a lap. He got past Rosberg pretty easily. Rosberg was on the radio asking if this was it for the lead of the race, and it sort of was in a way. If Rosberg had gone with a different strategy, then he might have been able to take the lead of the race, or keep the lead of the race by keeping Vettel behind. But Vettel was just incredibly fast, about 2 seconds a lap faster than Rosberg and Hamilton. At that stage of the race, Rosberg was actually faster than Hamilton, but everything didn't really play out his way throughout this whole race, so that was unfortunate for him. But yeah, so then Hamilton and Rosberg did pit again, meaning that Vettel took the lead of the race back once again. Vettel obviously putting on the softer compound tyres in this race, meaning he was just going really fast. Hamilton decided to switch over to the medium compound tyres as well as Vettel did, obviously quite a bit later on. But Rosberg decided to go with the alternative strategy for his second stop and to go over to the medium compound, not the medium compound tyres I should say, the harder compound tyres Rosberg decided to go over to for the second stop there. And Hamilton was closing down on Vettel. Obviously the Mercedes is a faster car, let's not forget that. It might not be as big as in other races, but the Mercedes was still a faster car in my opinion in this race. But Hamilton was catching, but just not quite enough, because obviously Vettel's tyres were getting older and older, and he was catching, but not enough at that point. I think he got the gap down to about 13 seconds before Vettel decided to pit for the second time, and obviously at that point he had to switch over to the hard compound tyres because he hadn't used them previously in this race, and you have to use the medium and the hard compound tyres in this race if it didn't rain, which it didn't throughout the whole race, which was kind of surprising in a way. So that was that made it interesting. That meant Vettel just got out the pits actually ahead of Rosberg, so he drove that stint really well. He managed to get enough of a gap over Rosberg to get out in front of him in the pit stops, which was good. It was very close out the pit stops, but he just managed to get Rosberg out the pits there, which was really good for him. But then Hamilton saying on the radio he was struggling with his tyres, and that was really tough for Hamilton. And so Hamilton decided to pit once again. That put him down to third place behind Rosberg and Vettel. So Hamilton went down to third place, I think, with about 15 or so laps to go. So that was made it a bit interesting because Vettel was leading with Rosberg in second, with Hamilton in third, and Hamilton was catching Rosberg quite a fast rate of knots. And they were on the radio. I think there was a bit of miscommunication because Hamilton was hearing some of Rosberg's radio calls, I thought. At least that's what I thought. I don't think they really said it on the Sky, but I think they were supposed to be saying to Rosberg, "Are you going to hold up Hamilton?" But Hamilton actually heard that message instead of Rosberg, which I thought was a little bit amusing. But in the end, it ended up with Rosberg just stopping again. His tyres were going off quite a bit, so they decided to switch him over to the medium compound tyres, which are the softer tyres for the last stint. So both the Mercedes going for 3 stops in this race, and obviously that extra stop for Rosberg put him back behind Hamilton again. So Hamilton moved up to second with Rosberg in third place. So, I'm sorry this is very complicated, but I'm trying to really discuss this race quite well, but I'm probably not, I don't know. But anyway, Hamilton got into second place, obviously, but they're both on the harder compound tyres for the last stint. So, even though Hamilton was catching in those last laps, obviously he had fresher tyres, and I'd say a little bit of a faster car. It wasn't by much, it wasn't by as much as it was in like Australia, but it was a little bit in Mercedes' favour in my opinion. But anyway, I'm sure you guys will leave that comments down below. But Hamilton just couldn't catch Vettel. Obviously, they're on the same compound of tyres. If Hamilton had extended his last stint, he probably could have gone onto the soft compound tyres and maybe make it work. But I don't know. It's really a tough one to call, because I think this was a really amazing race from Ferrari. They called the strategy perfectly, and they managed to bring home a very famous victory, obviously for Ferrari, obviously who hadn't won since Spain 2013. But I think maybe more incredibly, Vettel won in a car that wasn't sponsored by Red Bull, and I think everyone thought that would never happen. Everyone thought it was down to Adrian Newey. Everything that Vettel did was because of Adrian Newey's success, but it was an amazing race from Vettel, I'm not going to lie. He drove it perfectly. He went really fast when he needed to go really fast, and he conserved the tyres when he needed to conserve the tyres, and he brought home a great race, obviously with 1 stop less than the Mercedes, which is really impressive as well. Mercedes have never been particularly good on their tyres, but I never thought Ferrari were either. But Ferrari managed to work a 2-stop strategy here, whilst Mercedes went with a 3. So yeah, that was a great race from Vettel. He managed to win the race by about 8 seconds in the end over Hamilton. Rosberg was catching Hamilton quite fast at the end, but just didn't have enough speed in those medium compound tyres to get past Hamilton there at the end. So that wasn't too good for Rosberg, obviously, because that meant he lost even more places in the championship. But I've got to say, a really notable mention as well for Raikkonen in 4th place as well. He fought back, obviously, after a puncture on the first lap to bring home really solid points. 12 points for 4th place. That's really good for Raikkonen there in not 4th. Yeah, it was 4th place. I'm getting confused. Yeah, 4th place for Raikkonen, bringing home 12 points. Very good for him. Then if we look down the standings a little bit further, in 5th place was another strong race from Bottas. He got past Massa near the end of that race, which is good for him. Obviously he didn't take part in the Australian Grand Prix, so important for Bottas to score points here today. Massa brought home more important points for Williams. He got 6th place. Williams just in the middle of not really many people at the moment. Williams sort of quite far behind Ferrari in a way, but not that, you know, not that close to Toro Rosso and Red Bull behind them. They've got a good gap either side of them here, so it's going to be hard for them to improve over, you know, 4th, 5th, 6th place over the next couple of races, but it's not going to be very easy for them to lose it. So I suppose they're in a good position, really. Good points for Williams. Verstappen, really good stuff from him. He has qualified 6th and managed to bring home 6 points in 7th place, which was good for him. He was the last car on the lead lap. Sainz Jr. had a really good race in my opinion. He made a very different strategy work. He finished a lap down, but he went from 15th place on the grid up to 8th place. So really good stuff from him. And I think him and Verstappen might be equal on points now. I could be wrong. I think they're both on 6 points. I'll check in a second for you guys. Kvyat got his first points for Red Bull. He beat Ricciardo, which is quite impressive actually. His fastest lap time was nearly a second faster than Ricciardo as well. So good stuff there from Kvyat. Obviously they dropped down from their starting positions, Red Bull, but I suppose the dry conditions not really working in their favour. But it is kind of weird to see Toro Rosso ahead of Red Bull. Last time it happened was like 2008. So yeah, I suppose good for Toro Rosso at least. Good to see they've actually got a really good car this year. Grosjean just outside the points in 11th. Nasser after points in Australia only finished 12th here today. Perez, Hulkenberg and Merry were the finishers. Maldonado retired on lap 47 and not too sure why. Button and Alonso retired on lap 41 and 21 respectively. Ericsson obviously spun off on lap number 3 and Stevens never even started the race. So yeah, that's that for this race. Let's have a look at the standings here for you guys. Hamilton leads on 43 points, Vettel on 40, Rosberg on 33 there, so Rosberg's getting a bit of a gap there to Hamilton and Vettel in the first 2 positions here. Massa in 4th place with 20, Raikkonen got his first points of the season obviously, so that means he's 5th place in the championship with 12 points. Nasser on 10 points, Bottas on 10 points, Ricciardo on 9, Hulkenberg on 6, Verstappen in 6, yeah, he's on the same points as Sainz Jr, but obviously he's got a better finish, so that means he's ahead of Sainz Jr, who's in 11th place on 6 points as well. Ericsson's on 4 points, Kvyat on 2, Perez on 1, and Grosjean all the way down to Stevens. None of them have scored points, so that's Grosjean, Button, Merry, Maldonado, Magnussen, Alonso and Stevens. None of them have scored points this year. But anyway guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this race down below. I thought it was a good race, good 8 out of 10. It was a really interesting one in my opinion, and hopefully we'll see many of those in the future. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the race. It's been AlexZAfRo. Goodbye.